The school dome on Europa glowed soft blue against the black sky. Inside, 23 human children studied maps of distant stars. Their voices were small, mixed with laughter and curiosity. Thin ice cracked under the dome's foundation as Jupiter's light reflected on frozen plains. Everything felt calm, safe. No one noticed the black shapes moving above the thin atmosphere. They were small attack craft, invisible to most scanners. Their hulls absorbed radar. Their engines made no sound. The strike team had been launched from a hidden council base months earlier. They had watched, waited, and planned. At 09:14 Europa Standard Time, the first craft entered the dome's blind spot. A faint shimmer of static rippled across the sky, like heat waves. The teacher looked up, frowning, thinking it was an aurora. Then the glass in the observation window began to vibrate. Inside the classroom, 8-year-old Lena pressed her finger to a star chart. "That's Earth," she said proudly. "That's where my mom is." Beside her, 9-year-old Amir built a model ship out of scrap metal. "I'm going to be a pilot," he whispered. None of them saw the shadow creeping across the dome. A sudden thump shook the classroom. Books fell. Lights flickered. The teacher's voice trembled. "Stay at your desks," she ordered, but her own hands shook. Outside, claws of dark metal dug into the dome. The first explosive charge lit up the sky with a blue flash. Atmosphere hissed out through a new crack. The children screamed. Air became thin. Sirens wailed. The teacher slammed an emergency seal, but it only slowed the leak. She opened a comm channel. "Central Control, this is Europa School 2, she cried. "We are under attack. Unknown hostiles breaching the dome." Static answered her. Up above, alien soldiers slipped through the tear like shadows. Their armor was black, segmented, and spined like insects. Their eyes glowed faint orange through narrow visors. They moved with cold precision, stepping over desks, scanning faces, ignoring pleas. Their mission was clear: no survivors. Lena's ears rang as the pressure dropped. She clutched Amir's arm. "What's happening?" she whispered. Amir's lips moved, but no sound came. He pulled her under a desk. They watched boots of alien metal pass inches away. One soldier raised a weapon shaped like a hook and fired a silent pulse. The teacher fell instantly, eyes wide. Another explosion rocked the dome. Half the ceiling collapsed, scattering shards of glass and ice. Air roared out. Emergency shields deployed, flickering red but too late. Children scattered like frightened birds. In a corner, 10-year-old Kale, son of a maintenance engineer, dragged a small transmitter from his bag. He had been taught emergency codes by his father. His hands trembled. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead. Around him, screams blurred into echoes. But Kale pressed the cracked transmitter to his mouth. "This is Kale of Europa School 2, he whispered, voice breaking. "We are under attack. Please, help." He entered his father's private code, a sequence only Earth Fleet Command could read. The transmitter sparked. He didn't know if it worked. He only knew he had to try. An alien soldier turned, hearing the faint whisper. Orange eyes locked on him. The soldier raised its weapon. Fade to black. Middle section, far across the solar system, in a secure communications room on Earth's moon base. An operator frowned at a strange blip on her console. The signal was weak, buried in static. She almost dismissed it as noise, until she heard a child's voice. She ripped off her headset and called her supervisor. Within minutes, the recording reached Fleet Command. In the recording, Kyle's voice trembled, distorted. "We are under attack. Please." Then silence. Coordinates flashed briefly before the signal died. The last thing heard was a low, alien hiss. Fleet Admiral Marcus Hale listened twice, jaw tight. "Play it again," he ordered. Officers gathered around, faces pale. "Children," someone whispered. The room filled with quiet rage. For years, the Galactic Council had maintained a tense peace with humanity. There were skirmishes, disputes over mining rights, but children had always been off limits. The Council's own charter listed it as the first law. Now someone had broken it and tried to hide it. "Where's our nearest patrol?" Hale asked. "Out of range, sir," replied his aide. "Fastest ship would need 20 hours. Europa's defenses were minimal." Hale closed his eyes. "They think we can't respond." They're wrong. Back on Europa, the alien strike team gathered survivors, only a few children left breathing. They injected them with a clear liquid, tagging them for transport. In the chaos, Kyle crawled under debris, clutching his transmitter. His body shook from cold and fear. He thought of his father's voice. If something happens, use the code. Someone will come. He heard the aliens speak in a guttural language, arguing. They seemed nervous. One pointed at the cracked transmitter, but didn't retrieve it. Their orders were to leave no trace, but their time was running short. Human response could come any moment. They dragged the surviving children toward a shuttle. Lena, coughing, reached for Kale, but was pulled away. He bit his lip until it bled, unable to move. The shuttle door hissed shut. Engines roared. Within seconds, the ship vanished into Europa's thin sky, leaving silence and scattered debris. Kale lay in the rubble, eyes unfocused. "Please," he whispered again, though the transmitter was dead. "Please." Council's secret decision light years away. In the grand chamber of the Galactic Council, delegates argued over holographic displays. They were supposed to maintain order among hundreds of species. But greed, fear, and old grudges had twisted their purpose. A thin, grey-skinned alien named Velcora, representative of the Thrin, addressed the assembly. Human expansion must be checked. They breed fast, spread fast, and arm fast. We warned them. We offered compromise. They refused. A limited operation on their young will break their spirit. They will retreat. Some delegates shifted uneasily. "It violates our own charter," a crystalline being said. "The first law was written for a reason." Velcora's mandibles clicked. "A small operation, clean, no witnesses. The Council will deny involvement. By the time Earth reacts, it will be too late." A vote was taken. Enough hands rose. The operation was approved, but there were always witnesses. Always survivors. Kale's escape hours later, emergency drones from Europa's mining colony arrived at the ruined dome. They found only bodies and scorched walls. Among them, half-frozen, was Kale. His lips were blue. His hands still clutched the broken transmitter. He was rushed to the colony infirmary. Doctors worked to stabilize him. When he awoke, he tried to speak but could only whisper. "Children, taken," he said, before falling unconscious. His words spread like wildfire through underground networks. Colonists began sending messages to Earth. Within days, a picture formed. The Council had targeted children, and one small voice had survived to tell it. Humanity's reaction on Earth. Admiral Hale addressed a closed session of the Security Council. "This was not a raid," he said. "It was a message. They want us afraid. They think we are too far, too slow, too divided. They think wrong." Images of the destroyed school flashed on a screen. Senators and generals stared in silence. Hale continued, "We can't show weakness. Not after this. We activate the contingency. We bring the Ghost Fleet online." A murmur rose. The Ghost Fleet was rumor, a hidden armada built in secret shipyards, equipped with technology far beyond public knowledge. Even many in the room had never seen it. Now, after years of restraint, humanity would reveal its claws. "Operation Guardian begins now," Hale said. "We bring our children home. We make them regret this day." The alien shuttle, meanwhile, the alien shuttle carrying the captured children, slipped through a hidden wormhole gate. Inside, the children huddled together, frightened and silent. Lena held Amir's hand. "They'll come for us," she whispered, though her eyes were wet. "They have to." The alien guard spoke little. They moved with the cold efficiency of soldiers who believed they were untouchable. But one guard kept glancing at the children with something like doubt. He knew the Council's first law. He knew this was dangerous. Humans had a reputation. They never forgot, and they never forgave. In deep space, an unmarked human ship drifted dark, its hull disguised as rock. Inside, hidden sensors picked up Kale's broken transmission fragment. A young officer looked at the data. "Sir, we've got something. Coordinates, Europa School 2, looks bad." The captain leaned forward, eyes hard. "Wake the crew," he said. "Tell them the code word, Guardian." Cut back to Kale, asleep in a medical bed on Europa. His hand twitched. Monitors beeped. Outside the window, Jupiter glowed like a burning eye. A voiceover, quiet, steady, closes the episode. They thought a strike on children would break humanity. They forgot what happens when you harm the youngest of our kind. They forgot who we are. The icy plains of Europa lay silent after the attack. Under the fractured dome, emergency drones hovered, scanning for signs of life. Among twisted beams and shattered glass, they found a boy. His skin was pale, lips blue, one hand still clutching a cracked transmitter. Kyle's faint breath steamed in the frozen air. The drones carried him away, their lights cutting through the smoke like small suns across the solar system. In a dimly lit communications room on the moon, an operator rubbed her eyes and frowned at a strange pattern on her console. The signal was weak, buried under static. She reached for the dial, expecting another phantom echo from deep space. Then a tiny voice broke through. It was not a distress beacon. It was a child. She froze, headset pressed against her ear. "Please, help," the voice whispered before dissolving into hiss. Coordinates flickered across her screen. Her heart raced. Within minutes, the recording reached Fleet Command. Admiral Marcus Hale listened in silence as Kyle's broken plea repeated. The room was filled with senior officers, but no one spoke. On the third playback, the Admiral's jaw tightened. He had fought long enough to know what this meant. The Galactic Council had crossed the line no one dared cross. Someone had ordered a strike on human children, believing Earth too slow to react, too far to retaliate. "Where's our nearest patrol?" Hale asked, his voice low. 20 hours out, sir," replied his aide. "Europa's defenses were minimal. We can't get there in time. They think we can't respond," Hale said, eyes on the flickering coordinates. "They're wrong." On Europa, Kyle drifted in and out of consciousness as medics worked over him. His words came in fragments, but the message was clear. The children had been taken. Somewhere in the dark between worlds, a council ship carried them away. The images from the ruined schools spread through the underground channels of the colonies, igniting anger and fear. Parents clutched their children closer. Soldiers tightened their fists. At a closed meeting on Earth, the recording played again, echoing against polished walls. "They will expect us to plead," said one senator. "They will expect us to wait for answers." Admiral Hale shook his head. "No, we will not plead. We will not wait. We bring the Ghost Fleet online." A ripple of unease passed through the room. For years, the Ghost Fleet had been a rumor, a story whispered in dockyards. Ships built in secret, sleeping under black rock. Waiting for a day like this, on a hidden asteroid base near the edge of the Kuiper Belt, alarms pulsed red. Silent warships long wrapped in darkness began to wake. Engines hummed. Weapon systems came alive, lights flickering on like opening eyes. Crews filed aboard in combat gear, faces grim. Painted on the hull of each vessel was a single symbol, a child's handprint over a star. Operation Guardian had begun. Meanwhile, far from the solar system, the alien shuttle carrying the captured children slipped through a wormhole gate. Inside, Lena clutched Amir's hand. "They'll come for us," she whispered, though fear trembled in her voice. The guards said nothing. Their armor glinted dull gray in the dim light. One of them glanced at the children with something like unease. Everyone knew the Council's first law. Everyone knew what humans did to those who harmed their young. Back on the moon, the operator who first heard the signal sat alone, replaying Kale's voice over and over. It was only a whisper, yet it had moved the entire fleet. Outside the viewing port, Earth rose blue and white above the barren surface. The operator pressed a hand to the glass and whispered, "We're coming." In deep space, unmarked human ships changed course toward the coordinates embedded in Kale's code. Their drives burned hot, leaving trails of light across the void. The Council believed their crime hidden, their tracks covered. But a single weak transmission had reached the one species that never forgot and never forgave. A cry for help from a child had become the spark of something vast and unstoppable. The hidden asteroid base drifted in the dark beyond Neptune, its surface disguised as a jagged rock. For decades it had been a ghost story told among spacers, a place where old warships slept, waiting for a war no one believed would come. Now silent alarms pulsed deep within its core. Bulkheads opened. Frozen engines thawed. Lights flickered to life one by one, like the eyes of awakening giants. Inside, engineers moved fast, boots clanging on metal decks. They tore the seals from consoles and ran system checks on ships older than many of their crews. Each vessel bore a faded emblem, a child's handprint over a star. It had been painted years earlier as a quiet promise. These ships would never launch unless Earth's young were threatened. In the command pit, Admiral Hale stood with his hands behind his back. Through the glass wall, he watched a row of heavy cruisers begin to glow as their reactors lit. The sight was both beautiful and terrible. Weapons humanity had sworn to keep hidden, now rising like ghosts from a grave. Hale's voice was low but steady. "They touched our children," he said to no one in particular. "Now they see who we really are." Across the asteroid base, crews strapped themselves into acceleration chairs. Pilots ran through checklists, their eyes hard. Some were veterans of old border wars, others too young to have fired a shot in anger. All understood why they were here. The video of the destroyed school and the whisper of a child had reached every terminal, every bunk, every heart. The time for patience was over. Dock doors slid open with a deep, rolling groan. Outside lay black space, glittering with cold stars. The first destroyer edged forward, its hull still blackened by decades of dust. Then another, and another. They moved silently at first, only running dark, their drives cold. Then as one, they ignited their engines. Blue-white fire filled the cavern and cast moving shadows across the walls. The ghost fleet was awake. Far away, in the orbit of Mars, news of the mobilization leaked to a few high-ranking officers. They whispered in awe. "It's real," one said. "All these years, and it's real." Colonists across the belt began to cheer when the first encrypted message went out. Operation Guardian active. Evacuation protocols cancelled. The fleet was coming. On the alien shuttle, the stolen children sat in silence. Lena stared at the floor, remembering her teacher's face. Amir tried to be brave, but his hands shook. "Do you think anyone heard us?" he asked quietly. Child's face flickered in her mind, the boy with the transmitter. She didn't know if he had survived. She only knew she had to believe someone was coming. Back at the asteroid base, technicians connected data cores filled with intelligence about the Galactic Council's roots, codes, and weaknesses. Years of quiet espionage now paid off. Every ship left port with precise targets already loaded into its systems. This was not blind revenge. This was a rescue, and a strike rolled into one. Admiral Hale entered the operations room and addressed the assembled crews over the intercom. His voice echoed through every corridor. "You've all seen the images. You know what was done. Our children were taken by those who thought we would hide. We are done hiding. We rise now, not in anger alone, but in duty. We bring them home, and we end this crime." A low rumble of voices answered him from 1,000 stations. "Guardian!" Beyond the asteroid, the dark ships formed into tight formation. Their profiles were jagged, irregular, built to scatter sensors. In silence, they moved away from their cradle and into the deep engines burning hotter, trajectories aligning toward a single star. They were ghosts no more. Deep inside the Council's central world, Velcora read a fragment of intercepted chatter and felt a flicker of unease. Humans were supposed to be slow, predictable, yet something moved at the edge of their scanners, a shape they could not define. The operation had been meant to break Earth's spirit. Instead, it had woken something ancient, something patient, something dangerous. The episode closes on the fleet itself, dozens of ships slipping through the darkness like predators, their drives pulsing in rhythm. In each command chair sits a human who has seen the footage of Europa. In each ship's hold waits equipment built in secret for a day no one wanted. They are heading toward the unknown with one goal burned into their minds: bring the children home and make the Council answer for what it has done. The Council prison ship drifted through a region of dark, silent space. Its hull was dull gray, painted with false registry marks, but beneath the disguise, it was a war-era transport built for speed. Inside, Human children huddled in a narrow cell, lit only by a thin strip of yellow light. Lena held Amir's hand and whispered, "They'll find us." Amir didn't answer. His eyes were on the sealed door, listening for footsteps. Above them in the command bay, alien guards checked their instruments. The voyage had been quiet, too quiet. One of the officers muttered in his guttural language about a strange echo on the long-range sensors. Another dismissed it. "Human ships are slow," he said. "They cannot reach us here." Yet he glanced at the screen again, uneasy. Far away, the ghost fleet moved without running lights. Dozens of dark ships glided across the void in formation, hulls coated in sensor scatter material. On board, Marines sat in full combat gear, weapons ready, visors dimmed to avoid reflections. They had spent the long hours of the jump watching the same grainy video. The Europa school, the dead teacher, the terrified children, until the images were burned into their minds. They had come to bring those children back. On the flagship, Admiral Hale studied a holographic model of the prison ship. It rotated slowly above the table, marked with weak points. "They will expect a frontal assault," his operations officer said. Hale shook his head. "We don't give them one. We come from the dark side, breach fast, and vanish before their reinforcements arrive. No stray shots near the cells. These are our children." The fleet slid out of jump space on the far side of a dim red star. For a moment they drifted cold, engines silent. Then one by one their drives lit, faint blue flares pushing them into attack position. Hale's voice echoed through every ship. "Guardian, Phase 1, begin!" On the prison ship, the alien officer frowned at his console. "Sensor echo increasing," he muttered. Before he could finish, the lights flickered and died. Gravity cut out. The deck pitched sideways, throwing guards against bulkheads. Emergency klaxons blared. "We are under attack!" Someone shouted in their harsh language. From the black outside, the first human breaching pods struck the hull with silent precision. Magnetic clamps locked. Cutting torches burned bright circles in the metal. One hatch fell inward, and Marines poured through like shadows, weapons raised. They fired stun pulses, not kill shots, moving fast and low. Alien guards scrambled to respond, but were blinded by flash bursts and electromagnetic pulses that shut down their comms. In the cell block, Lena clutched Amir as the lights went out. She heard boots on the deck, then a voice, a human voice, low and urgent. "Stay down. We're here to take you home." The door blew open, and armored figures filled the frame, visors reflecting the dim light. One knelt, hand outstretched. "Come on, kids. We've got you." Marines guided the children into a narrow corridor, while others formed a shield around them, weapons pointed outward. Alien resistance was fierce in pockets of the ship, but every human move had been rehearsed. Jammers blocked transmissions. Decoys filled the Council's long-range sensors with false targets. On the bridge, the alien captain tried to steer for hyperspace, but his controls were dead. A figure appeared on the main screen, Admiral Hale, face cold as stone. "These children are ours," he said. "You will surrender your ship." The alien opened his mandibles to reply, but the screen went dark as another EMP wave rolled through the bridge. In less than 8 minutes, the human strike team secured the cell block and 2 main corridors. Charges planted on the engines ensured the ship could not jump. Marines moved the rescued children into evacuation pods, painted matte black. Each pod sealed with a soft hiss and detached into space, gliding toward waiting stealth shuttles hidden in the debris field. Lena looked out of a small viewport as the pod drifted away. She saw streaks of light from distant stars, and for the first time since Europa, she allowed herself to breathe. A Marine sitting opposite her removed his helmet, revealing a young, tired face. "You're safe now," he said quietly. "We've got you." Behind them, small controlled explosions rippled along the prison ship's hull, disabling its weapons. Human craft melted back into the void, vanishing as quickly as they had come. By the time the Council's reinforcements arrived, the ship was drifting powerless and empty of its most valuable cargo. In the flagship's command room, Admiral Hale watched the pods dock one by one. Children stumbled out into waiting medics' arms. Some cried, some just stared. Hale lowered his head for a moment, then straightened. "Signal Earth," he said. "Tell them their children are coming home." Somewhere in the Council's central world, Velcora received an urgent report. The humans had struck, swift and precise, and taken back what was theirs. He felt his mandibles tighten. The limited operation had failed. The first law had been broken, and now something far larger was moving. The episode ends with the Ghost Fleet fading into deep space, engines dimmed once again. In their holds sit rescued children, wrapped in blankets, safe but changed. In every heart aboard burns the same thought: this was only the beginning. Humanity had drawn its line, and the Council had made its fatal mistake. The stars over the outer rim burned cold and steady. A lone Council patrol station drifted above a mining moon, its crew half asleep at their posts. They had heard rumors about the prison ship but dismissed them. Humans were slow. Humans would send protests, not warships. At 03 Drew station time, their sensors showed nothing but normal traffic. Then the lights flickered. For an instant, the station's monitors showed a cluster of faint blue dots on the edge of range. By the time the crew leaned forward to look, the dots were gone. A heartbeat later, the entire sensor array went dark. Outside, space rippled. Shapes emerged, angular shadows sliding out of the black. Before the station could send a warning, white flashes cut across its hull. Systems died in silence. The first outpost simply vanished. Across 3 systems, the same thing happened. Outposts, supply depots, and covert labs that had been used to plan the attack on the children suddenly went dark. No wreckage floated, no transmissions escaped. To the aliens who witnessed it, it looked as if invisible hands were plucking pieces from the Council's reach. In truth, it was the Ghost Fleet moving in coordinated strikes, each blow planned down to the second. On the flagship, Admiral Hale stood at the center of a dim operations room. Holographic maps of Council space floated in the air around him, glowing red where targets had already fallen. Crews worked in near silence, only the hum of engines and the soft click of data keys breaking the stillness. The rescued children were safe aboard medical ships now. Phase 2 had begun. Hale spoke to his officers in a low voice. "Every target we hit is tied to the attack. No random strikes. No collateral." He paused. "They must know why we're coming." Around him, faces were grim and intent. These were not raids of vengeance. These were messages written in precision fire. In Council space, panic began to spread. Velcora read report after report of lost facilities and vanished convoys. He had promised a limited operation would break the humans' will. Instead, it had awakened a force the Council barely understood. A network of hidden fleets, covert intelligence, and alliances quietly built over decades. The humans were not just retaliating. They were exposing the Council's weakness for all the galaxy to see. On a free trader's ship, skirting the edge of the conflict, alien crew watched the news feeds in stunned silence. Images showed human ships appearing without warning, disabling entire bases, then vanishing. "They're ghosts," one muttered. Another whispered, "They're bringing their children home." And something more. Back aboard, the fleet pilots prepared for the next wave. In the launch bay, one young officer checked his weapon and looked up at the symbol on the bulkhead, the child's handprint over the star. "They thought we'd be afraid," he said softly. They were wrong. Around him, the others nodded. Engines began to rumble. The episode closes on a wide shot of the Ghost Fleet streaking between the stars, trails of blue fire marking their path. One by one, alien worlds light up on the fleet's map, each a target chosen for its role in the crime. Humanity is no longer just defending itself. It is shaping the war, moving with speed and precision no one believed possible. Somewhere deep in Council space, leaders whisper to each other in fear. They had made the fatal mistake. Now retaliation was coming across the stars. In the shining towers of the Galactic Council's capital world, everything looked calm. Speeches still echoed in the assembly chamber. Flags of hundreds of species still fluttered in the great hall. But behind closed doors, panic whispered like wind through cracks in stone. It began quietly. A Council intelligence ship, tasked with tracking the human ghost fleet, sent a final burst of data and then went silent. In the war room, Velcora read the transmission, his hands trembling. It contained not only the fleet's coordinates, but something far worse. Names of Council officials secretly linked to the attack on the children. Those names were now in human hands. Within hours, hidden lines of trust snapped. Ambassadors accused each other of leaks. Fleet commanders refused orders. A new rumor swept the chamber. The humans were not only striking targets, they were feeding evidence of the Council's crimes back to the public on dozens of worlds. Images of the destroyed school and the imprisoned children began to play on alien news networks. Crowds started gathering outside Council offices, chanting in languages no human could understand, but with one clear meaning. How could you? In one private chamber, 3 senior species convened a secret meeting. We did not vote for this, hissed the delegate from Avex. We were deceived. Another pounded the table with a scaled fist. We told you they would retaliate. Now our colonies burn. Velcora's voice rose over them all. We are still the Council. We can still control the narrative. But his words sounded thin, even to him. At the same time, a new fracture opened in the fleet itself. Several member worlds' ships refused to follow Council orders, quietly powering down their weapons. A few captains even sent messages to the humans, offering coordinates of hidden Council depots in exchange for safe passage. For the first time in centuries, the Council's unity, its greatest weapon, was breaking. Back on the human flagship, Admiral Hale received the new data with grim satisfaction. They're tearing themselves apart, he murmured. His staff watched the feeds, astonished at how fast the tide had turned. Yet Hale's expression was not triumphant. Desperate animals are dangerous, he warned. They may lash out again before they fall. In a dim cell on an alien transport, Lena heard whispers between guards. Words she didn't understand, but the tone was fear. She clutched Amir's hand. Something's happening, she whispered. They're scared of us. Amir's eyes widened. Scared of humans. She shook her head, scared of what's coming. The episode closes on 2 mirrored images. In the Council's grand chamber, a furious delegate slamming a clawed hand down as others shout, and in deep space, the ghost fleet forming into new spearhead formations. A voiceover, or text on screen, could echo Hale's warning. The Council is fracturing, but a cornered predator can still be deadly. The suspense builds for what the Council might do next as its authority crumbles. The alien warship drifted at the edge of a dying sun. Its crew had been tracking human movements for days and still could not understand how the ghost fleet stayed invisible. Their scanners showed only empty space. Yet a low hum filled the deck, making every hair on their necks rise. The helmsman leaned forward. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. The captain opened his mouth to answer, and the stars themselves seemed to bend out of nothing. A human ship appeared, not like the others, but something darker, sleeker, edges flickering with faint blue light. It moved without a drive signature, without a sound, a predator in vacuum. Before the alien crew could act, their weapons went offline. Their ship's own systems began to obey foreign commands. In less than a minute, the vessel was dead in space, its crew staring in disbelief. Humanity's unseen weapon had revealed itself. On the flagship, Admiral Hale stood in a quiet, sealed chamber. Around him, engineers monitored a lattice of glowing symbols. This was Project Phantom, a hybrid of stealth, cyber warfare, and living AI, built in secret long before the Council's first strike. It had been too dangerous to deploy. Until now! Phantom vessels did not simply hide. They slipped through enemy sensors, rewrote systems from inside, and turned the Council's own technology against itself. The first few minutes of the episode show raid after raid, carried out without a single shot fired. Council frigates drift helpless, their engines locked, their targeting arrays showing empty space where entire human squadrons lurk. Supply networks collapse overnight. Worlds that thought they were safe suddenly find their defense grids deactivated. No one knows how the humans are doing it. Fear spreads faster than the attacks themselves. Back in the council chambers, delegates shout over one another. Velcora stares at a flickering screen showing captured council warships, now under human control. "This is impossible," he mutters. "They're using our own code." Around him, whispers rise. "They've been inside our systems for years." This is not war. This is dismantling. The unity of the council unravels another degree. Across the fleet, human pilots watch in grim satisfaction as enemy weapons fail before they can fire. Yet Hale's voice over the comm stays steady and cold. "Remember why we're here. We're not conquerors. We're rescuers. Every action is aimed at ending the threat to our children." The crews nod, hands hovering over controls that could destroy worlds, but do not. Precision strikes, system hacks, and swift evacuations become the fleet's signature. In a hidden cell on a remote moon, Lena and Amir hear new rumors from a sympathetic guard. Human ships moving like ghosts, systems falling, entire council units surrendering without a fight. For the first time, Amir smiles. "They're coming for us," he says. Lena squeezes his hand. And nothing can stop them. The episode ends with a sweeping shot of phantom vessels gliding through black space, their outlines barely visible, like shadows of larger beasts. In the distance, council warships drift powerless. Humanity's unseen weapon has turned the tide of war, and now the path to the heart of the council lies open. But a voiceover hints at the final challenge, cornered and desperate. The council is preparing something terrible of its own. The black of deep space over the council's homeworld shimmered with thousands of defense satellites. Their weapons were primed, shields raised, every scanner at full power. Inside the control hubs, alien crews whispered to each other, their claws and tendrils trembling over consoles. The humans were coming. They had struck at outposts, freed the children, shattered fleets. Now they were here at the heart of power. For long minutes, the scanners showed nothing, only the steady heartbeat of the planet below. Then, without warning, every defense satellite flickered. Screens filled with code no one could read. Lights dimmed. Systems went silent. In the sky above the capital, dozens of faint blue lines appeared like cracks in glass. The ghost fleet and the phantom vessels slid out of darkness, engines whispering. The unseen weapon had opened a door straight into the council's own heart. Inside the grand chamber, Velcora stood alone at the podium. The delegates' seats were empty. Some had fled. Some had turned on each other. Some had already sent messages of surrender to the humans. The great flags hung limp. For the first time in centuries, the council was silent. Velcora's voice was low, almost a plea. This was supposed to be a lesson, a warning. We did not know, but even he did not believe his own words. On the flagship, Admiral Hale looked out at the planet through a viewing screen. Behind him, officers waited for the order to fire. They had loaded coordinates of the very building where the order to attack the children had been signed. One command could erase it from existence. Hale's face was carved from stone. "They wanted to see who we really are," he murmured. "Let's show them." Instead of fire, a single transmission went out. It carried images of the rescued children, the evidence of the council's crimes, and a message in plain language. Humanity has your names. Humanity has your ships. Humanity will not attack the innocent. Humanity will protect its young. Surrender the remaining captives, disband the war councils, stand trial, or face justice. Across the council's networks, the message played again and again. On alien streets, crowds watched it, then turned on their own leaders. Planetary guards dropped weapons. Commanders refused orders. Velcora stared at the screen and felt his world collapse. The council had made the one mistake it could never undo. It had harmed human children. Now no one stood with it. In orbit, the Ghost Fleet held position, weapons cold but ready. Slowly, one by one, signals of surrender blinked onto the humans' screens. Entire fleets powered down. Defense satellites opened their ports to docking. The heart of the council was in human hands without a single shot fired. Lena and Amir stepped off a medical shuttle into a bright docking bay. Around them, other rescued children clung to nurses and soldiers, eyes wide at the sight of the ships that had come for them. Lena turned to see Admiral Hale standing nearby. She whispered, "You came." Hale crouched to her level, his face softening for the first time in weeks. "We heard you," he said quietly. "We always will." The final scene shows the council chamber under new banners, its walls filled with beings from across the galaxy watching humans testify not as conquerors but as protectors. The ghost fleet drifts above, silent again, waiting to sleep until it is needed. A voiceover could echo the theme of the series. They made the fatal mistake of harming human children, and in doing so, they awoke a power that reshaped the stars. The screen fades to black on a single line of text: "Never attack human children."